Welcome to the Carl Vibe Show. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and I welcome all of you guys to my brand new studio. I actually recently moved out of the city and into the country so I could be more in the middle of the strangeness and the mystery, closer to the Grand Canyon, just south of Zion's National Park. And just today, just a little bit ago, finished setting up my backdrop in my studio. So hopefully all you guys like it. I got my color changing lights. It looks a little bit pink or like salmon colored right now. I might have to adjust that a little bit, but you guys, I got a killer show for you today. I'm super stoked for this one because we actually have some really special guests here. We've got Andy from the New York UAP Discussion Instagram and YouTube channel, who has been right in the center of releasing a lot of, I don't know if you call it leaked or just like special footage of UFOs and UAPs that have come from really legitimate sources. They're not just people on their cell phones goofing around. These are actual federal agents, Border Patrol people, people that work for the Department of Defense, and all kinds of people trust Andy to release this kind of footage. And we're going to be talking a little bit about it today. But first of all, I want to take care of a little bit of business because who we have on the show is getting ready to go on. And he is a federal agent who is retired now and ready to come forward to try and set the stage for other people like him to feel confident in the disclosure movement, to help people come out about the things that they've seen. Because when you guys work for the Border Patrol or work for any of these government official agencies trying to do your job, it can be really difficult because of the levels of contracts that you're in and the confidentiality that you guys have in order to follow. And so our special guest today is going to try and help break down that barrier a little bit and talk more openly, and maybe even for the first time ever show his face in public and reveal who he actually is. But it's only a prelude to a much bigger announcement that's coming out, a full media release with more footage and more stuff to disclose to everyone. There's been so much going on with the move into the new house and everything, but behind the scenes, there has been a ton happening, and there's special events coming up where you... First up, let's go ahead and bring up Andy. How you doing, Andy?
What's up, Carl?
Let's go ahead and bring in... I don't know whether to call him Bob or Rob, because let's just go ahead and bring him in. How you doing, man?
Good, man.
Oh, this is so awesome. So I don't even know where to start. Andy, go ahead and tell everybody how they can find you, first of all, and what you've been up to, and let everybody know some of your special announcements and what's going on in your life.
Well, I mean, I have my Instagram account, NY UAP Discussion. I have a YouTube account also, but I really just post videos here and there on there. But I met Bob through the channel.
Are we calling you Bob or Rob now?
There you call me whatever.
Whatever you want.
Bob, Rob. Yeah, so basically, he reached out and, got me the cell phone footage, and eventually got, the actual files or whatnot. And that's, the rest is history from there. But yeah, it's been a difficult ride. It's been an interesting ride since all this happened, but I'm kind of glad that, things are turning out the way they did now, because, we really got the opportunity now to tell the story right. And Bob has the opportunity to give his side of the story and have everybody understand that, this just didn't come out of nowhere, this is legitimate. It did come from a legitimate source. These were things that were seen. So, he's how can I say? He's been through some things too when it comes to all this as well, because, it's a little stressed out in regards to showing who he was when, all this was released, and he wanted to wait till retirement. So, now he's here and he's got nothing to worry about. So
Yeah, it's exciting. Nothing to worry about at a certain level, right? But
I know it's a certain
So
level.
they say.
so they say. So Bob, that is interesting. So tell everyone a little bit of your background, where you come from, what you do, as much as you are allowed to talk about, because that
Oh
was
yeah.
one of the things that hooked me into this whole thing. Is it's not just that there's footage coming out through Andy, but the credibility of your background and your professionalism and what you've done for a living now that you're retired and able to talk about it, I think is really important to set the stage exactly who you are and what you've been doing with your career up to now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't consider myself anyone special by any means. I've just put in a lot of hard work over the years, and it's gotten me, it's gotten me to be able to do a lot of cool things, in my career. I joined the military right out of high school. I was a screw off in high school. I like partying and stuff. And, I was really good at sports, but I was ineligible my senior year for, doing anything with, school or anything after high school. So I went in the Army, and, I spent about 3 years on active duty. Was over at Desert Storm, and I got trained as a combat medic, and so I continued on my career after that with the National Guard and the Army Reserve. I was in some pretty cool units here in Arizona, tank units and armored cavalry units, and yeah, so I did that all the way up until about May of 2001, and I got off of, my obligations with the military were done at that point in time. And so after I got off active duty, I did a couple of different, medical related jobs for a while. I immediately went to work at a hospital, and I was working in the emergency department and critical care areas. And I even moonlighted doing tissue and eye recovery for couple of companies that were local here, and I did that for a number of years, and did civilian EMS, and got on with one of the fire departments here in the Tucson area, Rural Metro Fire Department, and was with them for about 12 years or so, and ended up joining the Border Patrol in 2008, and all the way up until recently was with them, and had a good career with the Border Patrol. I had a good station, great people I worked with, and got to see and do a lot of cool things. Got to be part of, a lot of cool teams, and one of the last things I did was fly for the Border Patrol. So, I was part of our special operations group, one of the detachments, and part of a component of that SOD that was tasked with flying for the Border Patrol. And so I got to see and do a lot of different things. And, I worked as a paramedic as well. That carried over from my days of being in the Army and all the training and stuff that I went through. And, I worked as a paramedic, as a collateral duty as a Border Patrol agent as well. So I had the added responsibility of taking care of people and delivering that advanced life support, out in the field to both agents and aliens. And so, flying was good, and I got to see and, meet a lot of people, a lot of different pilots we flew with, because we also flew with, numerous different agencies. It wasn't just, doing the strictly Border Patrol stuff. We flew with a lot of the partner local law enforcement agencies and Department of Defense and stuff. So you build those relationships over years. You build relationships with the pilots, the crew members, and, your other agents and stuff. And I've always been fascinated by this stuff, I've had my own experiences, and, so having the ability to have like the cool technology to see this stuff, which I have witnessed on duty myself. And, I've heard from other agents and stuff as well that have seen stuff and, seen things through, FLIR cameras and night vision goggles and, some of the stuff that your average citizen doesn't get to see on a normal basis. And, I've always kind of made it my mission to document a lot of that stuff to show other people, because, much like Andy had his experience at a younger age. I've had experiences as well. And, you you can't talk and tell people about those, especially in the line of career I was in. But, you know, towards the end of my career, I was very freely, you know, talking about a lot of this stuff. You know, I would say, hey, gee whiz, did you see that news, you know, that news article that came out? And, you know, within the last 2-3 years, it's become, you know, more mainstream. So I've just had access to, you know, a lot of this information that, you know, a lot of times just gets overlooked or thrown in the garbage. And for us, you know, stuff that had a nexus to smuggling was, you know, that was what we were looking at. But we had guys, you know, out there 24/7 looking at things, and they saw things that they couldn't explain. And so I was really interested in those, you know, a lot of those videos that were out there, because for one, we don't know what they are. Is it a threat? Is it a new smuggling technique? You know, no one really knows. So I like to look at all that stuff. So I've just had access to it, guys. You know, that's been where, you know, my career has put me there. Just hard work and, you know, liking to surround myself with, you know, like-minded individuals that want to succeed all the time. So that's, you know, nothing special.
Yeah. I just want to say real quick, just so for everybody watching, so we were going to get a little more, you know, a little deeper into this, but unfortunately, some things came up before the talk that requires us to kind of refrain from saying too much of, you know, the story. You know, we're a little limited as to what we can say when it comes to that. So I would say that the introduction Bob just gave is basically the most you're going to get tonight.
That's right.
Because I'm not trying to get my ass kicked.
Yeah, we're gonna tiptoe around it, but this deserves the proper respect and the proper reporting, and in order to package this properly from not only Bob's life and experience, but his experiences as an experiencer, you know, and especially the people that work with him. It isn't just something that we want to come out with everything that we know and everything that Bob has shared with myself and with Andy. We want to give it the proper respect, to give it the story that it needs and the time that it needs to put that story together. And then we'll tiptoe around it carefully tonight and get into some interesting stuff too.
Well, I'll have a better idea of that tomorrow. I'm going to be speaking with.
Cool.
I do know that it's 1,000% being worked on. They're very, very interested, and like Carl said, you know, we want, me and Bob want this to be put out the right way. You know, we attempted to do that at the beginning with the other DHS footage, which is the reason why I reached out to the SCU so we can get that report. But who knows what's going on with these people now? You know what I'm saying? After everything that happened, you know, it worries me to think that we've gotten to a point where popular opinion can now ruin credibility, and you know that's a very worrying sign if that's the case, because you know how much further can we get with this subject if, you know, opinions can literally ruin fact. You understand what I'm saying? Or just, you know, just take away from doing any real science or real work or real investigation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that's not the case, but unfortunately, you know, that possibility is there. You know what I'm saying? Because especially now when it comes to, you know, the Twitter world and social media, you know, opinions, as wrong as it may be, can influence and can change, you know, opinions.
Yeah. Well, because here shortly what's going to happen is it's probably going to get shot out of a cannon onto major media outlets and the news, and then Bob and Andy, you guys are going to be. And so tonight is just going to be like a good practice run to warm up, and we're going to carefully tiptoe around all those things that need to be handled appropriately. So we're going to do our best. If I ask any questions or cross any lines, you guys can just tell me, just wait for the debrief. It's coming soon. Just hold on.
Well, I will say, you know, both Andy and I have talked to I mean, these videos they're amazing. I think they show different things. They show things that I think a lot of people haven't seen before. So
can we at least name what the footage has kind of been nicknamed, or what they can expect is associated with all this? Because we know
yeah. So about the right, and right. I know those guys personally. I know the agents that filmed that. I know the pilots that were on board that craft. I talked to those guys. Their best guess is that it was a drone, but you guys have seen the analysis of it. They looked at what that thing was doing, had some odd behavior as well. I mean, you can't really see it from the video, but I'm friends with the other agent that absolutely filmed it. So he knew my interest in it and sent it my way. So these have all been looked at, and for someone like myself, I have operated those cameras that are on those planes. I've operated the cameras that are on the helicopters and the trucks as well. I couldn't tell you what it was. It wasn't anything that I knew. And all of these videos are the same way. These you have guys that have thousands of hours behind these screens looking at these dealing with high stress situations. So they have to be right, with what they're identifying. They can't, put people on balloons and, drones. And the rubber duck video, we thought was pretty amazing. We didn't know how to explain it. And same with the other ones. The other ones are equally as intriguing. They're not things that we see out there in the desert on a normal basis, So they were something that someone wanted to record and store. I just happened to be able to grab those. So they're all of them. I think all of them are good. And it's not just that there's 3 of them from the Border Patrol or have a nexus to the Border Patrol, but DHS sees these things in general as well. And that's the bigger scope of a lot of this that needs to kind of make its way to the front lines. Because there's guys out there right now, literally right now, 24/7 that are watching those screens, and they may be seeing stuff, as we speak that they don't know what it is, but you have to have education, and it has to start from somewhere, just like having conversations like we're doing right now, and
well, it's important also that what you mentioned in regards to observation, it's one of the things that I was kind of really stressing because, people don't understand what it means to be a professional observer or a trained observer. You have to know what you're looking at to make the correct decisions when the time comes, or to, understand what it is that you're seeing to distinguish between, a good guy or a bad guy, or, things like that are very important, So to question what individuals are seeing or claim that they're not seeing what they saw or they're wrong is this is what they were trained to do. This is what they do on a daily basis.
So everyone's entitled to their opinions on what it is. I look towards the science. I looked at, I appreciate. I'll mention Dave Fouch. Dave Fouch did some, strong work in analyzing, those videos and went to the links to show that these aren't, maybe we need to take a step back and not throw a label on these things, right off the bat. And so there's other people out there that, have good theories and opinions. I have my own on, what they could be as well. It doesn't mean it's the right one, but I can tell you what it's not, that's for sure. And, all through deduction of reasoning, understanding the science behind the cameras. And that's why I think a lot of these videos, that, we've gotten out are pretty good, Andy, honestly, because they do show that data. I like the cell phone videos. I like the camcorder videos and stuff. There's some great ones out there. And, but from a scientific standpoint, I think the ones with the numbers and stuff really, give you a perspective that there's more to this out there,
Well, it's what the most important thing, and I'm sorry to cut you off before I forget, is now we're having a massive issue with social media that there are so many fake videos being put out there that it's almost impossible to distinguish real footage from fake footage, because CGI has gotten so good that people can do incredible things. A friend of mine, John at UFOs Worldwide, did a video recently pointing these things out, showing just how good this software is now getting, that it fools everybody. It's very, very, very difficult to distinguish. So with that being said, when you get your hands on footage like we got, that is extremely important, because this came from the source. It did not come from someone who just decided to upload it on YouTube or Instagram or whatever. This is coming from a legitimate source. It is not altered in any kind of way. You're seeing reality. You're seeing a real life situation unfolding, showing something that unfortunately we can't explain. You understand? But this is why, in my opinion, these videos are extremely important. You understand? They're highly important, because the only thing that's come out that has been released is still the Tic Tac. And that was how many years ago now? Tic Tac, go fast. You know what I'm saying? It's been years. We haven't seen anything at all coming from any military source or any government source. Literally, the only things that have come out on that scale are what we put out. You understand what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing else. You can name me one other footage that has come out from any kind of source like that, I'll shut my mouth. But yeah, I haven't. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, the way I look at it, Andy, was, I don't know if we get into that story. Like the new video that's Andy's gonna release, and should be pretty good.
There's some big stuff coming, and maybe we can talk about that for just a minute. And tip.
Yeah, what do you got?
People, I think in general, have this perception of like what you do at the Border Patrol. They think of like the Minutemen riding out on horses and stuff like that, or walking around on foot with low budgets. But you guys are flying spy planes, and there's advanced FLIR and thermal equipment. So maybe talk about like what a typical day on the Border Patrol is like for you, because you're not just going out getting in a Jeep or something. You're flying in helicopters and using advanced optics and equipment.
Yeah, and it's different.
Minute targets that are trying to stay hidden out in the vast wilderness in the desert, right?
Yeah, and it's different for it's different for each station and even each sector. The Border Patrol is vastly different. The guys in say New York versus the guys in Arizona. I mean, their jobs almost completely different. So in Arizona, our big thing was stopping the flow of smugglers, whether it was human or drug. So as a line agent, you're out there, your assignments vary all the time. You don't know what you're gonna, do from day to day sometimes, and within those stations, there's kind of regular assignments that you do. Sometimes you have to work at the checkpoint. Sometimes you have to work in processing to, process aliens. And then, there might be a few guys out in the field. It's not, it's not what you think. A lot of times, these guys are kind of by themselves. Your closest backup may be 45 minutes away. So for when I first came in the patrol, that's what you did. You kind of just sowed your oats on the learning the regular side of the Border Patrol work. And it's rough work. You put in a lot of hard hours. You're working 5 days a week, 12 to 16 hour days, sometimes, 10-hour days minimum. And, so Border Patrol is real built around seniority too. So, the new guys, you have to earn your keep. You have to prove your worth before, you can gravitate towards kind of internal details within the station. And, they have different specialty details that you can do. It used to be, they'd have ATV teams and, mountain teams that would hike out just in the mountains and stuff. And, sometimes they have plainclothes teams and stuff like that. So I always gravitated towards, kind of the hard charging, mountain team type people. And I spent a lot of time, hiking the mountains in southern Arizona, and you got to see a lot of stuff, which was really cool too. We spent a lot of time, this is up your league, Carl, we're, hiking around the Arizona Trail, and a lot of these routes were used by smugglers over the years, even during Prohibition. They were smuggling tequila and Bacanora and stuff. So a lot of these routes have been used. So I really gravitated towards kind of the history behind a lot of that stuff, because I think you can, if you understand the history behind it, it'll help you do your job better. So, but anyways, learning that area is kind of a stepping stone. And then I just gravitated more towards doing, some of the special operations stuff. And I got the chance to be on what they call the mobile response team. And, I jumped at it. I went off to the little short academy and participated on that my last years in the Border Patrol. I think I was on that team for a good 7-8 years or so, and the last 5 or so flying. So it's been a good time. I've had a lot of fun, and the flying portion, is a lot different. We supported the agents and what they did on the ground. So a lot of, there were some hero moments where you're jumping out of the helicopters and grabbing bad guys that the guys on the ground couldn't catch and stuff like that. But the majority of what we did was, give the guys on the ground the support that they needed. And the helicopter was a tremendous asset for those ground agents. It stopped the movement of the aliens. They didn't want to move, when you were overhead. So you could, basically hover over where they're at and allow those agents to, go in for the apprehension. So during, the height of the Trump administration, it's full blown war on drugs out there. We're catching marijuana, we're catching methamphetamine, different types of narcotics, and then just an endless stream of people, that are coming north as well, all while the wall's trying to be built. So right now, I'm far removed from, the current operations that are going on. I haven't even, my last 5 months, I didn't even really go into work. So now that I'm retired, things are, they don't look too good. Things are very bleak and grim for the guys that are over there. And a lot of it has to do with the management and the current administration. So hopefully they can get that fixed, but it was a great job. It really was, and I always enjoyed helping people and giving back, to the community. And, I think, what I did for Andy, I think is just another way to do that. I just had access to that information, and, it's like a gift to Andy. I give it to him because, I believe in what he does. He's one of the little guys out there that, swimming in a big pond with all these sharks, and man, it's ruthless. And to watch what unfolded with some of this stuff was amazing. But, those are my days. That was what I did. I had a lot of fun doing it. And, if I can continue to help in some form or fashion, I'm certainly going to. I'll never, did I see bad things in the Border Patrol, incompetent leadership, stuff like that? Sure. But my brothers and sisters still work for them. I will always have their backs. And, I don't have anything bad to say about the Border Patrol. It was absolutely, one of the best times of my life.
Yeah, and the fact that you're stepping forward now is evidence of how you still have their back and everything, because it's not enough that you guys are out there serving the country and trying to do an honorable job to protect the country from all the trafficking and the illegal activity going on, but also do it in a responsible way and take care of even the people that you apprehend. And on top of that, you guys are in dangerous, hostile situations, not just from the environment, but from the whole scenario that you're facing day in and day out.
Yeah. I mean, I worked with guys that, you guys all heard about the Brian Terry incident. I worked with guys that were there during that time. A lot of the stuff you see on the news, I worked with those guys all the time. A lot of stuff I did made the news, like you're just not going to hear about it. The fact of the matter is that, definitely the UFO or UAP subject is a taboo subject. You get a label if you are that guy that talks about that stuff. And after a while, I didn't care because I'm a smart dude. I've got, multiple degrees. I've got the credentials to back it up. And I know that there's something else going on. That's the other. It's not that I know. I'm 100% certain there's something else going on. So there's guys that see stuff out there, and the sad thing, Carl and Andy, is that guys suffer from PTSD. I did. I've been a paramedic for 30 years. Like if I haven't, I'm here as a survivor of PTSD. If I wasn't a survivor of PTSD, I wouldn't be here. So it's been tough to talk about that as well. And I found, healing from that has been, the best thing has been talking about it, and I spent a year in therapy talking about things like that, and, being able to bring it forward is part of the healing process. So, kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to bring, some of these videos out was guys shouldn't have to hide this. They already hide the fact that they have PTSD. They shouldn't have to hide the fact that they see shit at work, you should be able to report that. It could be a vital link in an early warning system for, multiple reasons. There's multiple reasons why people should be able to report it. And our guys see that stuff on a regular basis. So, I'm not speaking for the Border Patrol. I'm just telling you, as a retired Border Patrol agent, they see stuff, and they have to be able to look at what's coming and going, in the country. There's been times where we've seen, I was just talking to a couple agents the other day that I saw, old friends, and we were kind of reminiscing. There were nights that we had 6 ultralights coming in at once. 6 ultralights laden with narcotics flying in at once, and we couldn't do anything about it. Now you add in anti-gravity technology or, visitors that want to come in, we ain't gonna be able to do anything about it, and there wasn't anything we were going to be able to do about it anyways. Even if we would have called the Air Force for 6 ultralights coming in at once, what are they going to do about it? So I looked at a lot of, different things over the years that just didn't make sense with the government. And, we see things, we should be able to report them. Unfortunately, we can't. So.
Yeah. And that creates like a whole conundrum, because you're out there, you're witnessing and dealing with things that are traumatic enough as they are sometimes, just dealing with the human element, because you've got families and kids and women and children and that you're dealing with out there. But then you run into something anomalous that you can't explain, or something that seems to be paranormal or otherworldly or other dimensionally. And what do you do with that? There's been some guys that have written some books. I think there's a book by a retired agent by the name of Rocky Elmore. I think is his last name, Elmore. And he writes, he put some experiences in his books, everything from Bigfoots to aliens, the guys out there, when you're out in the wilderness, all the time, you're bound to run into stuff, so it's just the way it is. If you're inside all the time, you're probably not going to see stuff. You're outside all the time, you're probably going to see stuff. That's just the facts. Yeah, and you guys are out there not only during the daytime, like a 9 to 5. You guys are out there 24/7 working.
24/7, night vision goggles, the whole 9 yards. Yep.
Yeah, so you're in that environment, and the whole point of the job is to be observing and looking for anything anomalous, heat signatures, anything flying around, and you've seen it all. What are some of the stuff that aside from the like UFOs, UAPs, and strange entities and things that seem to wander around in the desert, you guys have seen ultralights, balloons, parachute rigs, drone type stuff. Maybe talk about some of that you can.
No, any way that you can think about smuggling something, people have tried it. Some of the hidden compartment loads are amazing. You've probably seen some of those on TV. Probably one of the biggest things that did the most damage to the Border Patrol was actually that National Geographic series, The Border Wars, that came out, because they actually, kind of aired a lot of our operational side that, the bad guys watch those shows, so.
I always, let me hold on. I have to cut you off. I always said that to myself whenever I see anything posted on the news or they made a show about it. It's like, why are you doing this?
Well, they have.
You do realize the bad guys are watching this shit too.
Yeah, they have
and taking notes.
These organizations have very robust counterintelligence, agents that work for them, or people assigned to those roles that do watch that stuff. Hey, how can we change up our tactics? And we saw that all the time. I mean, we saw anything you could think of that they would do down in the area that I had. Not everyone knows that. The wall is not this long, robust thing that everyone thinks it is. There's certain areas where they call it like the Normandy barrier. It kind of looks like the railroad ties with the crossbeam in between, right?
Oh yeah, I seen it.
So it's a vehicle barrier,
pictures,
right? So they use them as vehicle barriers. The crews that operate these are so sophisticated. They'll pull up, they ramp them, they'll get guys out there, they'll break the welds because they're welded together. So they'll break the welds. They use brown caulking to make it look like the weld to put back in place and rake everything out so you can't tell. So it's just an ongoing cat and mouse game, that they play out there. And then you're working with other agencies too, so you're working, ATF and DEA and ICE all have, if there's a weapon involved in an arrest, then the ATF wants a piece of it because there's drugs involved. The DEA wants a piece of it and the guy's an illegal alien. So ICE wants a piece of it, so like things get so convoluted sometimes, but it's the way the government does things, and they build different cases and whatnot based upon some of the stuff that we do at kind of a grassroots level. I never thought that I wasn't a criminal investigator. I didn't do criminal investigation. I was a trunk monkey. I was like the old Subaru commercial. You push the button.
Oh my God,
I jump out.
Commercials.
I jump out, and we just go grab people. That was our role. And as a medic, I didn't have to jump out as much. They kind of retained me in case one of the other guys, but I like to go get dirty just like anyone else. But I turned 50 next year. It's just not the same. I can't run after an 18-year-old kid like I was, 24. It's just not the same anymore. So, I've always had good roles, but day-to-day stuff for Border Patrol. I mean, it's never ending, and I'll tell you what, Carl, one of the more fascinating things that I tended to, towards the end of my career, I like to look at was we spent a vast amount of time, on the reservation out here just west of Tucson. And I liked exploring, because I thought all the petroglyphs, the culture behind it, the culture behind the Tohono O'odham people, what they believed in, all of that was very fascinating to me. And I also, I like to understand what the aliens believed in as well. Everyone, assumes that they were all Catholic because they're Central American countries, but a lot of these people didn't even speak Spanish. You would come across people that were, Chiapan, that would speak a dialect, an Indian dialect that, you had to communicate with in some form or fashion. So, to me, the experience of it all, Carl, was what it was all worth more than anything. Being able to go places that, most people never got to go was, that was what sold it for me, honestly. And so the smuggling stuff, I mean, you could talk about that all day long. Different things you see, helicopters. We've had airplanes fly in, we've chased airplanes, we've chased helicopters. Yeah, that stuff's boring. With flying, there's a lot of stuff that you have to worry about, so you're always constantly scanning the sky. And anything that's not on your, your radars and stuff, you want to scrutinize and look at. And we saw stuff flying around, but it was always off out in the distance, and you could never get close to it or anything. But endless the stuff that you see out there. I mean, I've had stories of agents, out towards the Barry Goldwater Range, if you guys know where that's at. It's out towards Yuma. I've got stories of friends that have been out there working groups that have had large triangles, silent triangles buzz them. small triangles, tiny triangles buzzing them. Is that military stuff? There's a good chance because it's all out towards the Buried Goldwater Range out there. And a lot of that stuff along the border, that's another thing. So a lot of the stuff along the border falls in, military training areas. They're military, areas of flight, per se, that's kind of cordoned off for, the military to do stuff down there, especially from the air. So some of those videos, show that type of stuff. So I'm certain there's other ones out there as well, because guys see stuff, guys record stuff all the time. So the cultural side, I liked, Carl. I think there was a lot of that was really cool that people don't get to see. The geological features as well. I was really big into taking photos and photographing a lot of the geological features, because I think some of these people use these landmarks for terrain navigation as well. And there is that Catholic aspect of it as well. And so Father Kino Escobedo down south of here is buried in Magdalena, Mexico. He was an important, figure for the Catholic people. Well, anyways, there's actually a really cool book written by Craig Childs. It's called The Secret Knowledge of Water. And they used some of his old maps because he was, they were doing their missionary work, down here in Southern Arizona. And one of the things was the water. Like, where do people get the water from in the desert? And so Craig Childs wrote this book. I can't remember if he's a game and fish guy or a BLM guy, but they were looking for the bighorn sheep, how the bighorn sheep were surviving out in this arid environment. And so he spent a lot of time out there. And what he came to find out was that there's certain areas in the mountain that hold vast amounts of water. There's areas that they call them tanajes, and they'll hold upwards of, 10 to 15,000 gallons of water. Some of these areas will have brine shrimp in them and stuff. So I looked at all that with the aliens, like, how did they survive out here? Are they just drinking from cattle tanks, old pond water? Or were they actually using some of these maps? And I found some of these aliens that had some of the old Father Kino maps and stuff on them. So,
oh, wow. Yeah.
And that would tie into, maybe a lot of the stuff that you got going on up there, in your neck of the woods, especially with some of the petroglyphs, because I think they definitely follow some of these petroglyphs. These are,
yeah,
we've talked about that before.
Yeah, we dig into that a lot. I'm developing kind of this theory on my main channel I call Carl the Crusher, where I go out and look for these petroglyphs and try to piece them together. And I try to step aside from the traditional narrative that we're told, even the ones that the indigenous people hold. I reference all of that, but then I just look at it raw and try to follow my intuition. I do meditation out there. I try to actually tap into it. And then it seems to tie together to this entire vast global network that almost seems like it follows these energetic lines around the globe.
You're absolutely right, Carl. And it has a lot to do with water and stuff. I mean, I think if we didn't have modern means of transportation, you'd still be seeing people, traversing these same routes. It's almost literally no different than like the Silk Road, going east to west over, in that part of the world.
Similar to the Game Trail too.
Yeah. So I took every advantage of being out in the field and looking at all this stuff. I researched stuff. If I knew, we have to respond to, different technology that's placed throughout the field. And if I knew there was something there, that I wanted to go see while I was out in that area, I'd research it, and see what was out there. What were there, old ruins, or were there petroglyphs in that area? And so I took advantage of it. If Uncle Sam was going to pay me to, go catch bad guys and be out in the wilderness, I was going to take every advantage of it. And, I did. I like to document a lot of that stuff and understand it from a, historical significance.
And so do you feel like that, we've talked a lot off camera and everything and referenced this like heavily, but it almost seems like going clear back throughout the past, you follow these migratory routes that even the aliens seem to be intuitively following, trying to find a path into the States. And it seems like they're following these same energetic lines that have been traversed for thousands of years by the multiple cultures that have inhabited the land, and then maybe these are energetic spots where these entities or other dimensional craft or UFOs are also utilizing, that seem to be the same as up at like the Uinta Basin. And you've even drawn lines and connected the dots and
I have.
kind of started piecing a lot of this together, what might be going on. So
Well,
what are some of your thoughts on that, Bob?
Well, and I really didn't, I didn't, I don't know if I didn't connect the dots to a lot of this stuff until fairly recently, as a matter of fact. And one of the things has always kind of intrigued me, and I knew it was out where we were working, are the jaguars, right? So the jaguars, I've always been intrigued by those. We had the one that got captured in the north end of the Whetstone Mountains on an area that we also used to work, which has some strange things going on, ironically. But
Jaguars isn't a code word for some other thing.
No.
You're meaning the actual cat.
The actual jaguar. Yeah. So we have, and I've got a friend that, is very instrumental in capturing photos of it. And he's been, he's another agent, great agent. I've worked with him extensively, and he's a hunter as well. Right. So one of the things that we ran across while I was working, especially down in my area, which is kind of the Sonoyta area, was we came across a lot of mountain lion hunters, right? And so I started kind of, I don't know if you call it digging in. It's just more researching, the kind of this culture of these mountain lion hunters. And it turns out there's a pretty famous guy that lives, fairly close by in Arizona, by the name of Warner Glenn. And he was one of the original guys that filmed the jaguar. You can go on YouTube and find all kinds of documentaries about him, but he was part of this mountain lion hunting crew that ended up treeing a jaguar and took some videos of it and stuff. Well, apparently these jaguars kind of roamed all over the place, especially in northern Mexico, all the way up into the United States. I think the last one they know of was in the 1950s up near the Grand Canyon. And recently they had one up in, I think, Washington State. They caught it on game camera with an ocelot in its mouth. So, was that someone's pet jaguar up there, or is that thing, in its migratory pattern right now? No one, it's too early to tell. But my guess is that there could be more of them, moving forward. And they're already starting to say that too. They're already starting to say that there may be more of them out there than people know of. They're a very elusive cat. They're known as the Lord of the Underground. And just where I live here is kind of the northernmost area that they know that they inhabit. And over in that area, there's a lot of natural springs and stuff. And these cats could be traveling underground, and there's been rumors about tunnels underground that kind of follow those ley lines, Carl, like you're talking about, these ancient tunnels as they're kind of known. So could those cats be traveling, in those tunnels, and that one popped up in Washington State? I don't know, but it's been intriguing. So I've always, I've probably been stalked by the jaguar, out looking for aliens. And we've had that happen to us with mountain lions. So that area, they're out there, and that has been, that's fascinated me. So I kind of started tracking that, like where's this jaguar being sighted? Well, I started figuring out there's more to it. Like, why are these aliens wearing these weird camouflage? And it hasn't been, sure, they're using it to get away, but what are they imitating? And it turns out that a lot of them kind of are in that mindset. They believe that they're in this kind of jaguar, like jaguar route. It's like it's like a rite of passage, almost like a pilgrimage for the most part. And so the interesting thing is they're very loyal to brands and stuff, right? And they take great like pride in sports. So they seem to want to go to certain cities, like where the Jaguars are, where the Pumas are, or, kind of these different sporting, which is odd because you would think they'd be going up to, Utah for, if it was connected to the Aztecs. But so something's drawing them to those areas up there. But without a doubt, this is very much mirroring, kind of the migration patterns that, preceded us, in the past.
Almost like subconsciously, they don't even realize they're doing it, but like a homing pigeon, they're following these migration routes, and they seem to be these natural energetic points or locations, pathways that these things are following. And when you get out there doing your job near these pathways, you're interacting with these energetic spots, these ancient locations that are covered with petroglyphs and ancient mysteries, caves
They're all over out there.
underground and everything. And then you encounter stuff that you can't explain. Can maybe you share a little bit at all about maybe not what?
I got a question that might
Yeah.
persuade him to not get too into all of that. I know that there are some Native American reservations around the area that you guys have dealt with, or worked around. Have you heard anything, or have you, had anybody speak to you, from these reservations and tell you stories, or anything like that, experiences?
They're very apprehensive about sharing, a lot of their cultural stuff with people. I actually, I heard more from friends that were up north, more Navajo stories. The Tohono O'odham, they've been they don't have a good relationship with the Border Patrol. They try to, but for some reason, they're not very open about sharing with us. I think it's just because they're leery of, what our purpose is there and, why we were working on the reservation. That's the largest one that I worked on, pretty much all the time. It was also heavily, I don't even know if the right word would be, I guess, converted to, Catholicism. So, all of those old Indian villages now have, white churches in them and stuff. So they don't freely share that with, at least with me when I was working, I didn't come across that, but I did take every opportunity to explore stuff. And the tie-in to it all is kind of the magic side of it as well, right? So those, not only are they practicing the Catholicism that's very heavily, ingrained into them, but they also dive into some of the, the darker magic side of stuff. And so when you talk about weird stuff, Andy, like, you'll have these young kids that have these, Santa Muerta medallions and stuff. And it's like the Grim Reaper with, a sickle. And they rely on that for protection. And, so do the cartels. The cartels have Malverde, who is, the patron saint of marijuana. So they look at that dark magic side of things and take it very seriously, whereas we don't. And I was, enough aware that they practice this stuff to understand that I could experience it at some point in time. And I did. I was working, I was out in, out on the TO reservation, and we were working with some ground agents, and these agents had a couple aliens. They were on dirt bikes and had a couple aliens pinned kind of up against a tree trying to effect an arrest. And I jumped out of the helicopter to help the one agent out. And when I went to grab this alien literally dematerialized in my arms, and I did the whole grab him like that, and it like literally disappeared.
Just so everybody understands, we're not talking about literal ETs. The word aliens been thrown around. I know someone out there is probably like, really? They're chasing aliens?
This was an alien in a camouflage suit, and I went to grab him and disappeared. And come to think of it, there was plenty of times I had stuff like that happen where, you turn the corner in a wash and someone would disappear. And, I just, look for a little bit. They're gone. I'm out of here, kind of thing. And you couldn't explain it. You do a good search of the area. You couldn't find them, but they literally disappeared, so that magic and spell protection for them is very, that's one of the creepier things that,
Well, it's no different than voodoo, I mean,
well, I can deal with stuff flying around out in the sky, but when people are disappearing on you, that takes things to a whole nother level, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that I never saw any Bigfoot out there. Plus, I wasn't working. I wasn't working in. I did. There were areas that were pretty heavily forested where I was at 8,500 feet. But those the sky islands that I mainly worked were, they're fairly remote. But I have heard other stories. I've heard stories of. We used to have there was a guy that was known as the barbed wire mule. Which mule being a drug mule, this guy was, 8 foot tall and could step over barbed wire fences. And we had a couple agents try to fight that guy, and he shuck him off. And so
get the hell out of here!
Casually walk away. Yeah,
oh my God!
You run across stuff like that. A lot of, there's a lot of military stuff. I said. The areas down along the border, they're remote areas. So, stuff gets probably tested down there. We had Fort Huachuca that was right by us. They're always doing electronic proving ground stuff. And, they're the base over there, they're active, going in and out with aircraft over there that come down from Davis Monthan that, come from other places as well. So, They train UAV pilots out there, so there's a lot of stuff flying around in the air that you have to kind of know what's going on. So when you see things, if you see something that's odd, it raises your eyebrow. I had a guy one time, one of the agents I worked with, I wish I could have got this on picture. We had these devices that are like thermal, kind of portable devices that you could take them around, and we'd set them up on tripods and stuff like that. But this one guy told me it captured a portal on the camera, and I was like, a portal? Are you kidding me? And sure as shit, I checked out the camera, and he took a picture of something that looked, and the way he described it was that this thing just opened up in the sky.
That sounds really close to what happened in Skinwalker.
Well, he took some pictures of it, and it was on that camera. I mean, you couldn't really tell what it looked like. It just looked like a weird circle kind of thing. And this was FLIR, so he's taking pictures of it with FLIR, but it looked like a circle opening up. I mean, it was pretty bizarre, so there's things like that. I've seen, I've been with a supervisor where we watched, lights come down out of the sky, so you see stuff like that. I've not seen, like a whole lot of paranormal stuff. I haven't even had that much, paranormal stuff really happen to me in my life. I went on a ghost tour one time and got touched on the back by a ghost. That was pretty cool, but I've not had any, I've not even had really any horrible experiences, stuff that's really, terrified me or so. But, we've been stalked by cats out there, you got to worry about guys with guns and stuff all the time, so you can get a little jumpy out there at night, especially if you're by yourself, because you got to worry about, I got to worry about a cheetah eating me, like that, besides from getting shot too, you have a heightened sense of, kind of awareness going on, you really,
survival.
You tune into your hearing, you tune into all your senses. And, I think agents get good at that too. I think they can, you hear it, called your sixth sense. And, I think anyone in law enforcement can kind of develop that. You have to, I count myself lucky. I never shot anyone, I very rarely got into any scuffles. I was just, I was kind of like the alien whisperer, I just treated people like human beings, and it seemed to always work out for me, and it allowed me to go explore it and stuff. Andy and Carl.
Yeah, that's really cool. When you were out there, did you ever encounter like catching some of the people crossing the border and they were scared or reported seeing anomalies or different things like that?
Oh yeah. I would always talk to the aliens, especially, when we would first encounter them. It's, it's a fairly tense situation, but once you kind of got them to relax and, lighten up, and you start talking to them like a normal human being, they would talk to you about all kinds of stuff. And I grew up in Tucson, so I spoke fairly good Spanish anyways when I went into the border, Patrol Academy, and I had to stay for the Spanish portion, which at the time you could test out of it. It was good that I had to stay anyways, but I was fairly fluent. And so So we had role players while we were at the Border Patrol Academy, and Border Patrol Academy is in Artesia, New Mexico. So it's sandwiched in between Carlsbad and Roswell, New Mexico. So, you know what goes on in Roswell, right? So you have the UFO museum and all that stuff, but there's other things that go on there as well. There was like the tortilla. They had a tortilla that had the face of Christ on it, which was a popular attraction, right? And that was one of the things that area was known for, right? So anyways, they would bring in these role players, and I would joke about stuff like that. I'd be like, hey, tell me about the Jesus tortilla, like all my classmates are just sitting there like, my name is Bob, like trying to have just unmeaningful conversations. So I would talk to them. I'd, joke and make fun of like Bigfoot. Do you guys see Bigfoot down here and stuff? And yeah, they'd laugh and stuff. And I would do the same thing with the aliens, and you'd hear stuff, and I did. I heard a story one time about a huge snake they came across. Like a group came across this big 10-foot long snake is what they described it as. And they said it was a rattlesnake, so yeah. And we've come across pretty big. I didn't come across a 10-foot snake, but I've come across some pretty big rattlesnakes, all different varieties, Mojaves, Sidewinders, you name it, come across them. But this particular group of aliens were terrified, and they believe there's a lot of like magic stuff. They believe like garlic wards off snakes, and they'll all have garlic in their in their bags and stuff like that. So a lot of those folklore and stuff they come across. I'd always ask them if they, you guys see any lights in the sky? Los vigilantes de cielo. What are you seeing? And they know like guys like Jaime Maussan. That's a hugely popular show down there in Central America. So they see stuff like that, but it's very tough to get them to you really have to build a rapport, because they're dealing with an incredible hardship. The women have, the females are, they're being raped, and, there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of dynamics to that you have to be very careful talking to people about stuff like that. So I was always very fortunate because, I'm just kind of a personable guy, and, people open up to me, and not to mention I was a medic too. I always made that very clear. And, I think people see things, and, medicine men are kind of, they're like counselors sometimes. Everyone comes to you with their, with their stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. So you guys see stuff all the time. And then not only that, you have all this advanced equipment. So when you're out there trying to look for people to catch them, you also catch stuff you're not expecting. Is there, I just keep trying to pick at it. Is there anything you feel like you can tease, or what can people expect to come out? And
well, I don't know what we can and can't say, Andy, but part of this is making these connections, right? And I've just made a lot of connections over the years, and I think some of these guys have been trusting enough to get me some of this footage, and I think it just needs to get out there. So the new one's pretty amazing. So Andy can, that's Andy. I let Andy's in the driver's seat for all of this. So it's my gift to him.
So maybe I'll just say this, and I'm not going to be revealing anything, but what everybody's been really stoked about up to now has been little like 15-second, 30-second clips from like Jeremy Corbell, who's done a lot of work with George Knapp and those guys, to release it. And that's made major headlines all over the major networks, has got tons of coverage and been backed up by the Pentagon and everything. A lot of them have been validated and stuff. But what we're talking about that has come through the behind the scenes work that Bob's done, and Andy and all of us trying to bring this forward. This has been going on for months and months. People don't understand this. We've been working on this for months behind the scenes to try and do this the proper way, because what you guys are talking about, there's like, how long are some of these clips, or like 30 minutes? Tell them, Andy, like how long are some of these clips of these objects that are filmed?
Longer than a minute, I'll tell you that. You're talking about 60 minutes with 40 minutes of an object, and the other one is about 5 minutes or something like that, 4 minutes. That I can't get into the other one. but they're way longer than what's been officially put out there. You know what I mean? And I honestly just feel like because, it came out of, because it was released from someone like, me, you know what I'm saying? Is probably one of the reasons why, or more than likely one of the reasons why, these bigger names like George Knapp and stuff have been apprehensive to really touch because it didn't go through them. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of pride in this whole disclosure thing, with these individuals looking to, get this information out and be these guys or be the ones you go to for the information and stuff like that. And it's like, I get it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody needs to survive. Everyone's got to eat. But, like Bob said, this is not one of those subjects. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is more than money, like we wake up every day asking ourselves how the hell we get here. You know what I'm saying? Or what are we doing here? I think I honestly gotten to the point where not a lot of people even ask that question anymore. It's like they just accept it. They just go on about their day, worry about what's on, freaking social media, watch their stupid shows on TV, and then do it again the next day, until they're dead. But, there's way more to it than that. And we're finally getting to this point, you know what I'm saying? And this is how we behave. And it's like, things need to change, you know what I'm saying? And it shouldn't matter if someone like me releases something like, I've released, take it serious. Don't ridicule. Don't, try to bring the person down just because it did not happen to go through you or you didn't know about it or, things like that. You know what? Be grateful that someone was able to get their hands on something that the government is not going to release themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like just be thankful for it instead of having all this animosity and hate. Just be happy. You got something that you couldn't get. It didn't go through you. Oh, well, grab it and do something with it. You know what I'm saying? But don't behave the way, people have been behaving, now that this is out, and open to the public. Because it's honestly, I look at it like this. These things are real and we're being visited. How embarrassing is it that this is how we're behaving in 2022? You understand what I'm saying? Like we're in 2022. We've achieved teleportation at the molecular level. You know what I'm saying? We've done all these incredible things. China just turned on their freaking artificial sun that turns on that burns 10 times hotter than our own. You know what I'm saying? How could we accomplish all of that shit and still argue about these dumb fucking things all the time? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, how can you be intelligent, but at the same time be an absolute moron? You know what I mean? And I just, that's probably the most frustrating part so far about this whole disclosure, because, that this is what's happening right now, and we have to put all that shit aside, man, and just work together. I don't understand why it's so difficult to work together. It's just as compartmentalized as the military. You know what I'm saying? One guy has this information, doesn't want to say shit. The other guy has this information, doesn't want to say shit because they want to release it in a specific way. The only reason I'm not saying nothing is because, listen, this is the totem pole and I'm at the bottom. So in order for me to get the most or to get my message out there, I have no choice but to play that role or to play along with everyone else in order to be heard. Because if not, no one gives a shit about people like me. No one gives a shit about people like Bob or even you, Carl, because at the end of the day, our status is considered down here. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. Especially
when you're playing with these, with these big names and these powerful people. They don't look at us the way we look at each other. They look at us they look at us completely different. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
We are not looked at like them, like the people that they're connected with. We're looked at like children that need their hand held, and they're the adults that have to do the leading. Because if not, we don't know what direction we're going to go, or we don't know what decisions to make because we're too stupid to make it ourselves. And that needs to stop because we're not that stupid. You know what I'm saying?
This is why we have to take, several weeks and months and try to work and collaborate with the right people that we know that we can trust, because it so easily can spill into the wrong hands, or the rights get
Yeah.
seized, or there's like hostile takeovers of the footage and things like that.
Exactly, you know,
And
and
it's,
it's
you have to navigate it like tiptoeing through a minefield, you know, like.
Well, that was my whole thing, is I never wanted to, you know, like I said, I gave this is like a gift to, you know, I had the ability to see it. I want to share it with people. I don't want to make any money off of it. You know, I don't want to have, you know, give like the exclusivity to someone, because I think it's too important to, you know, just to hold on and keep, you know, some of these videos have been out for a while. You know, they've you know, they've floated around. They've been seen to a certain extent. They haven't gotten that full mass wide, you know, viewing, because they were, you know, some of these were held within our community. They were held within the DoD community. I just don't think they got, you know, grabbed up by any of the investigative, you know, committees that were looking at them, or agencies that were looking at these things. And they might have flown underneath the radar, you know, and that might have been DHS flew underneath the radar. And that's why we got lucky having these, but they're not doing any good just sitting on someone's hard drive somewhere, or, you know, put in a vault somewhere, because they're not, you can't analyze them. You can't look at them. You can't have these meaningful discussions that were had when Andy released these to begin with. You know, they're all of them are remarkable, you know, even the ones that came out of Agua Dia. And that's, you know, that's the bigger picture of this all, is that, you know, there's now multiple videos that have come out, you know, from DHS, and the Department of Homeland Security has not yet addressed that. That's something that, you know, they need to do. You know, they need to, you know, go on the record and say, yeah, our guys see these things too. We're reporting them to the right agents, you know, the right agency that's, you know, requiring this data. You know, there's nothing more. We've changed our policies, and then you move on. And I think eventually all those agencies will start making, all the branches of the service will probably start making, you know, those, if they don't have them in place already. And same with the agencies that are involved in protecting the nation as well. They're going to have to start reporting these. These were all handed down by, you know, the Director of National Intelligence, and it's all government agencies are to report this stuff. So, you know, these videos, as they came out, you know, might have come out at the right time, Andy. You know, like they, you know, now they might be gobbled up and put into this, you know, this bureaucratic black hole that the public may never see. You know, they may, you know, these videos like these could be gobbled up and withheld from the public, and they want people to release them so they can, you know, keep that information from themselves. So those were always a concern for mine. You know, it was a concern for me when, you know, I thought about releasing these. You know, it was never about money. It was about getting them out. And so I think this will be a good opportunity, Andy, I think for sure, to, you know, tell this story a lot better, and having Carl on board. I mean, I sure wish we could share some more tonight with, you know what? Well, God,
I actually think you got a question someone asked you there.
Yeah. So Sonic Gravity with the super chat, $20. Speaking of not making a profit or money, watch me cash in $20 tonight on our interview.
Right? Yeah, it's McDonald's, bro.
It's all Sonic Gravity's question. I personally, I've had Andy, you know, I've sent stuff to Andy that I personally filmed myself, and he's
I actually posted one of his videos.
Yeah, he's posted several, or a couple. You've put a couple of mine up, and so, you know, I've seen different things. Officially at work, I haven't seen anything that looked like a smaller UAP fly out of a larger one. You know, I've seen triangular craft. I've seen
personal sightings.
Yeah, I've seen craft that have looked like, you know, satellites during the day. Personally, on the scope trucks themselves. So the Border Patrol operates trucks that have cameras and radars and on a telescoping kind of arm, and they're able to look out across vast valleys and, you know, mountains and stuff like that and see stuff. And I've seen stuff flying around that, you know, has raised my eyebrow, but I haven't, you know, like I hadn't had the opportunity to record it myself. And I'm very much I'm very much scientific in it. Like I always look for is it a balloon? Is it a drone? I always go that route myself, so I haven't seen anything in particular at work like Sonic was asking about, but I have seen it, off duty and have had multiple sightings, both when I was in the military, at the fire department, and in the border patrol. Unfortunately, I just, you can go through a lot of your old pictures and stuff, and you can see stuff that you've taken that you didn't even know was there. And it's even, I've showed Andy some pictures. I get lucky all the time capturing stuff on film, and I've sent Andy. I went to Montana last July, and I caught several things on camera that I couldn't explain. So I think some people are just lucky, but I don't go out looking anymore. I mean, I know they're real. Like I know what's going on is out there. So it's not for me to convince you guys. It's for you guys to go out and see and have these experiences for yourself. I just happen to have this footage to be able to share to get to get people more motivated to go out there and look and to show what other people, that are in positions like myself are seeing as well.
So the three of us, especially you, Bob, have had these firsthand experiences and witnessed things. So here's a fun question. What is your opinion on this debate between whether these things are nuts and bolts spaceships from another planet, like the classic metallic flying saucer, or what is your take on it being like an entity or some sort of an other dimensional being, like John Keel would talk about ultra terrestrial? Like we watched this rubber duck footage, and the first thing I thought, it looks like a person or an entity flying in the lotus position, like a meditative seated position or something strange, more than a ship.
I am of an open enough mind to be able to see that as well, Carl. Like, and it's not like I haven't paid a lot of attention to, all the shit that Andy's had to take putting these videos out. He sends me, he'd send me the Reddit links and I had a pretty good UFO or a pretty good Twitter channel going, and I would share different things. And that rubber duck video, I put out on my own Twitter channel briefly before it got taken down. And I never went back to Twitter. But so I followed all that stuff. And one of the things, how I actually kind of met Carl was, the show that you guys did. And, I immediately, when, Carl said that was a guy flying across the desert in lotus position, I was just like, oh my God, like, yeah, absolutely. That could be, and so I knew it wasn't a balloon. I knew it wasn't a drone because I talked to the pilots. I talked to the agent that was there that night as well. And I've seen things like that myself. I've seen balloons, I've seen drones, and so I knew it was something else. I just didn't know what, and a nuts and bolts craft. Could it be? Sure. I don't know. Could it be a plasma ball that originated out of the earth and is flying through the sky and you guys captured it on camera? Sure. I don't know. I've never seen one on FLIR before, but I'm open enough to, have that as a suggestion. I've never seen anyone astral project either. And I'll tell you, if there's someone astral projecting across the desert, it might look like that dude who was flying across the desert, such as the rubber duck. So, but what I can tell you is I don't think it's normal in any and everyone that I've showed it to, and we've showed it to a lot of people, there's a lot, not only, Andy's involvement, getting it to the right people, that, we were using to conduct an investigation that you'll hear about maybe in the future as well. Yeah, we have to see what's going on with that. But, I talked to those people. They didn't know what it was either. So there's been a lot of experts that have looked at, all three of these videos and even the new one that will be coming out, that they can't explain it. I think they show, possibly something else, Carl, like you're saying, could it be interdimensional? Absolutely. Could it be a military object as well? Yes, absolutely. It could be, but I can tell you what it's not. It ain't a balloon and it ain't a drone. So those are the terms that I think they use for, like, it's like the new Project Blue Book terms, the swamp gas, Venus, what else did they use? It's just all sleight of hand and renaming stuff, like we're gonna name them UAPs versus UFOs now, enough's enough. So I could have released a lot of these videos, that classic way. I could have gone to Jerry B. Corbell and Knapp and all those guys and Lou Elizondo, sure. But it's not what it's about. It's about getting this out. It's not having a gatekeeper of this information, because it's so important. If there's technology, think about this in every aspect, right? So if it is extraterrestrial, could they provide something that could eliminate suffering from, the human race? Maybe. If it's the military with this advanced technology, if they're flying around anti-gravity stuff, do they have the ability to heal people in a different capacity? Release that shit, same thing. The list goes on. If this is a private company that has that technology, there's got to be some kind of, medical use for it, or there's technology based upon it that could help someone out in some form or fashion. I say, get it out there, so I've always been apprehensive about, how we were going to release this and who we were going to release this to. And, Andy and I click, man. Andy's a good dude. So I watched, like Tough Talking New Yorker, like who else would you want to defend those videos? Because I knew they were going to raise some eyebrows, and obviously they did. Oh, they did.
They did. I just wanted to mention this because I know I posted it on my Instagram. So I could give you a rough idea of what's going to be happening. That this entire thing is literally completely built around our footage, the footage that Bob released. The other footage that unfortunately I just can't talk about right now. But again, I did mention the name of it. We call it the.
Oh, we're calling it.
Yeah. But yeah. So, and again, I apologize that I just can't throw it out there. Trust me, me and Bob had a whole long conversation in regards to that, but because of the people that we're working with and what they've done so far and how much they've helped out, we're gonna keep it tight-lipped, because we're trying to, like I said, we're trying to get this out there, or get our message out there to as wide an audience as possible, and they're really helping us out with that. And on top of that,
I personally think it's the best one yet.
Yeah,
I do, but I everyone likes the rubber duck. I'm gonna go on record. My favorite is the A10.
I like that.
I think the A10.
I like all of them.
I think the A10 and the Bruja are the best ones. Like
the Bruja.
Like as far as favorites goes, like just seeing the A10. I liked how the A10 is chased. Like to me that's pretty amazing. But then again, to know that there's something flying around out there where I worked that looked like a witch, that's pretty creepy, bro. I've been on the ground exactly where that thing was flying at, and like, what was it? So I think they're all pretty impressive, but definitely this new one is going to be, I think people will be talking about that.
Yeah.
But I think the A10, man, like all of them, all the ones that came out of DHS are good. Like the Navy guys, they put some good stuff up, but like there's other branches. These other branches need to get their ass in gear and
this is what we're pushing for with this whole. We're trying to spark up a new conversation when it comes to all of this, because it's just too much emphasis on just the technology and getting good footage, and people need to understand it's not about that. There's a bigger picture here, and this is why this is such a big deal to me, because I never thought I'd be part of anything like this, and the fact that now me and Bob are going to have this opportunity to
No, I just want Andy. I got to make sure everyone's clear. This is not about my story either. This is about these videos. This is about what the guys, the men and women that are in these positions see. They're going to have recorded some of this stuff with their cameras, whatever piece of equipment that they're using. It's for them. It's for allowing those guys to be able to, have a peace of mind and say, hey, I ain't crazy for seeing this thing pop out of the water, or I'm not crazy for seeing this thing fly across the sky. This is for them. The story is not about me. It's not about how I got these videos, who I got these videos from, how I release these videos, or even who I release these videos to. The story is about getting the videos out there so that people can see them, and understanding that it's not just the Air Force, it's not just the Navy, it's not just the Army that's seeing these things. There's other branches, there's other people that are credible witnesses, subject matter experts, trained observers that are seeing these things, and they're real.
Yeah, hell yeah, they're real. I've seen it, like right fucking in front of me.
There's an entire process to doing it properly too, and that's what we've really tried to do. Like, Bob, when you get your hands on this footage, this massive amount of footage that shows these anomalies, and some of them defy even the footage that we've seen and the traditional idea of like flying saucers. They look like entities or upright flying things. Like you even described one, the Bruja looks like a witch, flying across the desert. And Andy's seen all this footage and everything. And it moves the ball further down the field, and it shifts the paradigm, but it has to be done properly to distinguish it and give it the validation and the credit that it deserves. Because if you just go out and release it all, it's just like throwing a piece of meat to the wolves, and everybody chews it up and spits it out the other side, and it doesn't go anywhere. But we have carefully circled the proper team around everybody to bolster the support, to give it the validation, and now it's finally going to get the actual press release. Because you can't just be like nobodies like us and then have this stuff and bring it to the public, and unless you're connected with the right people through the right networks that control these funnels, that control how
it is. There seems to be a pipeline.
There is a pipeline. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not that pipeline gets to choose and decide how it's released, but if you really want to get at the exposure to where other people like you, Bob, that are, shouldn't have to worry about losing their retirement, or shouldn't have to worry about their entire credibility getting thrown under the bus and their whole career being shot because they are seeing this stuff on a regular basis. The idea is breaking down that wall and making sure that everybody is a part of it, and everybody suddenly feels like they have a voice and that there's a public attention to it, and it's familiar to what they're seeing. It's not just something coming out of the ocean, but it's right in their own backyard, and they're like, I've seen that too. And hopefully it opens the floodgates, or more comes out of it, and it starts kind of an avalanche of disclosure where more people like you.
Well, I mean, I think they tried that with, some of the past conventions. They had Greer brought, forward a bunch of military guys and stuff to talk about it. I hate to think this is going to be like a 2.0 and it's not going to go anywhere, but
maybe he's going to take the little guys, bro.
Well, you can only force people's hands. And, I think we bring some, like I said, I think we bring some pretty good footage to the table to be able to show the public. And I think that's what it's about.
I think the real driving force in this is going to be the energy behind it, the purpose behind it, like all these other, maybe it will take someone who's absolutely not known to just come out there and be like, listen, we need to cut the bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like, and just put it out there. Let everybody know what's happening. You know what I'm saying? Let them decide for themselves. Let them accept it and deal with the consequences of the information.
No, that's what I've always said is I don't think it's going to come. Disclosure is not going to come from the government. It's going to come from the people. The people are going to be the ones that, are unless they're in leagues with them already, and they've got this predetermined plan. I'm not even convinced that, an intelligent race would present itself to our leaders. You look at I don't mean to get political or anything, but you look at the current administration, it would be a travesty to present yourself to our current administration.
Well,
And, I just don't think they will. I think, when the time comes, people that have been around a long time will probably be the ones they present themselves to. The indigenous folks that have, not strayed from their belief in the return of them. And, things will change for a lot of people. I think once disclosure finally comes, but if we can help with it from that we the people standpoint, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think it's also, like if you read up on, some famous cases like the ones that happen in Australia with the children and in South Africa and all that, why would they? Those are some of the most, actually, if I'm not mistaken, they're the only stories I've ever heard where a craft actually purposely landed or appeared in front of a large group like that. Like if they wanted to be seen, they even got out and interacted with the children. So it makes you wonder, why did these events specifically, the only ones that actually ever recorded happened, occur in schools with children?
Yeah, did I tell you that connection I have to the Zimbabwe event?
No,
I
Did I tell you that?
think so.
So my sister, I've got two sisters. One of them is in the military as well. She's a lieutenant colonel, and she's an Army intelligence. But anyway, she's got a guy that's working for her right now that saw that Zimbabwe craft.
Oh yes, you did. You did
tell you that.
Yeah.
She texted me that, and she's like, "Have you ever heard of the Zimbabwe event?" I'm all, "Are you kidding me? What do you got?" And she goes, "Well, I got this guy that works for me that saw the craft when it landed at the school." And I'm all, "What?"
I know. I told you I was like, trying to get him.
I've got the text saved from my sister from that, because I think it's just so funny. And people come to me with that stuff all the time, and I think that's part of opening up about a lot of that stuff, Andy, is that, people are more willing to, share some of these experiences. I didn't, I really didn't start talking, more publicly about, some of the stuff that I've experienced. I went to a UFO convention up in Pine Top, Arizona, and met some people up there, and they had a roundtable experiencer discussion group. And but believe it or not, I went there to kind of go hear what was going on. It was going to be a small venue. It was at one of the casinos up in Show Low, Arizona, or Pine Top, Arizona. And when I get in there, I sit down in the back. I'm just going to listen. I didn't plan on speaking or anything. And lo and behold, who do I sit next to? There's the QAnon shaman, right? So the QAnon shaman comes down and sits next to me. He wasn't all painted up with his, red, white, and blue, but he did have his full-blown shaman outfit on and a spear and everything. And I sat next to that guy for 2 days in the morning and yapped with him, and he was all about plant medicine and stuff like that. But anyways, during that experiencer roundtable, I actually got up in front of, there was probably 20 or 30 people there, and spoke and kind of talked about some of my experiences that I had there as well. And I actually did an interview with a author from Australia. And so that was out on YouTube for a while. But I hadn't done anything else. I didn't plan on, like literally coming forward with any of this stuff. I'm more about the education behind it and helping people understand, what they saw. And, I got a lot of experience, around it. I've, researched it a lot. I used to not even go out until, the X-Files was a big part of my life, growing up for the most part. And I used to not even go out until after the current X-Files episode, came on. So I took an interest, in a lot of the paranormal, the ufology, the cryptozoology, all of that stuff I find fascinating. And, when I had the chance to, grab some UFO videos, you better believe I'm going to show some.
And we all know, off script a little bit, that this has been something that's kind of followed each of us most of our lives in a strange way. And this is kind of just coming to a point for all of us. We've all three had conversations where we've discussed our own events and our own traumas and our own experiences, and then had to, we've discussed like meditation and how to be at peace with it, and there's like a brotherhood forming, and a fellowship almost, where people who have been through this stuff or experienced it throughout their lives.
Well, one of the funny things that
connect, yeah.
One of the funny things, Carl, that I always got a kick out of was that you were involved in the juvenile court system as a probationary probationary officer. And, just so your audience knows, I was on the other end of that side. I was the guy that was on probation all the time. Right. So I spent a lot of time in, the juvenile courts when I was growing up. And I think a lot of that shaped me. I had some experiences up in Flagstaff, Arizona, that, probably shaped me to where I'm at today. And it did. A lot of it involved the Native Americans, and, where it placed me at today, I could say, is beyond coincidence at this point in time. And, there's a reason for it all.
Yeah, there really is. There's the amount of coincidences and synchronicities that have even brought us together. And then the similarities that we've had, like I'll message Bob or Andy, and it's such a coincidental moment, or what you'll send me in a message, or just on intuition, one of us in our little group will just reach out and make sure the other one's okay. And there's just so many different things that we've come across that have been like a
well, and then on top of that. Yeah. I mean, I didn't know anything about, Blind Frog Ranch until I really met you, Carl. And, 2 weeks ago, I'm having dinner with Dwayne from, Blind Frog Ranch, and talking like we're buddies, and having him want me involved in what's going on up in there. And, so that is pretty cool stuff. And it's not a coincidence, exactly like you're saying, the things line up for a reason. I've often questioned my sanity about some of this stuff because it has lined up so perfectly. So you just got to go with the flow. Trust the plan, right, Andy?
Trust the universe.
That's right.
Trust the universe.
You start to feel yourself kind of like going with a flow or down a path, and then you feel like you're caught up in a current, like the universe is really dragging you or pushing you down a certain direction. And then this crazy thing happens is you look to your left and right and realize that there's other people there with you that are getting shoved down the same path, and you're like, hey, can we stick together on this? Because this is too crazy to deny that, like, we're all here and have all of these things in common and the right pieces in place to where, like, you're able to meet Dwayne from Blind Frog Ranch, and the stuff that I'm studying in my personal life suddenly fits a big puzzle piece for you and what you've been struggling with for a while, and vice versa. And all of this just starts to click together, and we all have this sense like something is coming, like something big is about to happen, and we're all this strange part of it. And we're just trying to get people to pay attention. And not only that, other people that are feeling the same thing, that feel like they can't talk, have got to feel like they can come forward. They have to. That's
the goal. That's the goal. Trying to break that so people don't feel that anymore, because it hasn't gone away. It's still there. It's still fresh. You still have assholes everywhere. I still get them now. Like I was trying to transfer, to my second page because of all the crap that was going on in my current page, and I could only assume that one asshole I responded to in my typical New York fashion reported me, and they blocked my page again, my new page. It's like, I can't fucking win. But, that's one of the goals is to try to make those individuals now feel like they're, being left behind. You know what I'm saying? Like that old thinking has to be erased. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to now, move forward with the facts and leave them behind. If they want to continue with that bullshit, then do it on your own, in your own fucking time, by your, in your room. But, I want it to the point where now non-believers are considered weird and believers are looked at as normal. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm hoping for at one point in my life.
all of the information, the evidence, and everything that is being brought out and that you guys are helping to bring to the table is going to start to dispel those myths and make it more commonplace to address it on all those other levels, not just being flying saucers in the sky, but people are experiencing stuff in their own homes, in their own backyards, and even out on the job, just trying to do their duty, you know, and they're not expecting it and they have to deal with that. And so I think it's part of our purpose, you know, all of us, to try and bring this stuff to the forefront. So you guys are getting ready to do that. We've been going almost 2 hours here. So let's just remind everybody what's coming as much as you can, what to look forward to, and how they can stay tuned to get the big release. So Andy and Bob, tell everybody where they need to go and what they need to do besides subscribing to this channel and hitting the like button and turning on notifications. You know, like, you got to do that over on Andy's channel as well. But what's coming? What is coming for you guys to get this all released?
I'm retired now. I kind of just want to go off into the sunset, but I wanted to make sure, you know, I did Andy right, explaining, you know, where some of this stuff came from. And, you know, and it sounds like we still have a little bit more explaining to do, which is fine, you know, because I'll stand behind my, you know, my background and my credentials to, you know, give my endorsement to these videos, because I was the one that, you know, brought them forward and gave them to Andy. So, we're not looking to make any money off of it. It's just getting it out there to the world in the right venue. And it seems like everything that we've got going on so far is kind of pointing that way. So, you know, I would stay tuned to what Andy and Carl have got going on. I mean, you'll probably see me involved with it as well, but I'm not going to go out and do my own channel or anything. That's just not anything that I, you know, want to do or invest the time into, but I will, you know, I will stand by these guys and help them in their projects and what they want to do. So stay tuned for Andy and Carl's stuff is what I got to say.
You're going to see Bob lurking around. I'm going to get him on video with me a few times.
But just so you guys know, you know, the date is official. It is. I'm not sure if I can give any of the names that, you know, the individuals that are going to be appearing, but just know that I'm
excited about them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited. And we just got confirmation. You know, I'm gonna take part in a roundtable discussion with all these individuals. So I'm gonna feel a little weird being there, you know, around all these individuals. But you know, the opportunity has been.
No, you'll do fine.
The opportunity's presented itself, and we're going with it to see, you know, where this takes us. So. I'm excited. It's definitely unexpected, so I've been a little nervous about it.
Absolutely, but you're going to do great. It's time for this stuff to come out. You guys, thanks so much for joining me on the show tonight, and everybody that participated over in the comments section and everything, and especially for Sonic Gravity posting the super chat and supporting the channel and everything. It's awesome. I'm excited. I have not seen the new footage that's going to be coming out yet. I haven't seen all of it. I have hints of it. I'm really excited for it. But yeah, everybody stay tuned on Andy with New York UAP Discussion, and Bob's going to be.
You know, it's been a long time coming for Andy. You know, I've had to kind of remain in the shadows, and I'm here to help him out now. So, you know, we've spoken to a lot of people. You know, Andy sets up interviews for me, and I do phone interviews and stuff with the right people that need to hear this information. So, you know, they seem to be very receptive, you know, to it. So I'll continue with that line.
It's going to be awesome. Well, I can't wait, you guys. And thanks so much for joining us, everybody. And we will see you guys in the next one.
Take care.
Thanks for having me on.
Bye.
Peace out.